The ship was dying. Commander Vreth of the Galactic Sovereignty Fleet stood on the bridge of his warship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the damage report scroll across his screen like a death sentence. 3 of his 6 engine cores were completely offline. The hull had 17 breach points. His weapons array was nothing but melted metal and sparking wires. His crew of 412 soldiers, engineers and navigators sat in silence, waiting for him to make a decision. They had just survived the Battle of the Korean Nebula, a brutal 3-day fight against the Vretha's oldest enemies, the Drath Collective. The Drath fought with poisoned ships, vessels coated in corrosive energy that ate through metal like acid through paper. The Eternal Dominion had won the fight. But winning had come at a terrible cost. Vretha's chief engineer, a tall, 4-armed alien named Soreth, walked up beside him slowly. Soreth's gray skin was covered in burns. His second left arm was in a sling. He looked exhausted. "Commander," Soreth said quietly, "we cannot make it to the Sovereignty repair stations. Not in this condition. At our current speed, with 3 engines down, it would take us 42 days to reach the nearest Galactic Sovereignty dock. Our oxygen recyclers will fail in 29 days. Our water processors are already struggling." He paused. "We have a choice between 2 directions. We either drift and call for a rescue ship that will take 60 days to reach us, or we go to the nearest repair dock within range." Vreth turned slowly to look at Soreth. "And what is the nearest repair dock within range?" Soreth looked slightly uncomfortable, the alien version of discomfort, which was a slow flicker of his yellow eyes. "Earth Dock 7, sir. The human station. It is 11 days away at emergency crawl speed." The bridge went quiet. Several of Vretha's officers exchanged glances. One young navigator, a slender alien named Peth, actually made a low sound in his throat, something between nervousness and disbelief. Vreth had heard about the human repair docks. Every fleet commander in the galaxy had heard the stories. Some were impressive. Some were confusing. Some were frankly unbelievable. Humans were a young species, barely 400 years into space travel. They were small, fragile creatures with only 2 arms, no natural armor, weak senses, and a terrifyingly short lifespan. Most senior alien species laughed at humans in diplomatic meetings. They were called the soft ones, the pink fragiles, and worst of all, the temporary species, because most alien scientists believed humanity would destroy itself within the next 2 centuries. And yet, the human repair docks had a reputation that nobody could explain and nobody could deny. Vreth sat back in his command chair and stared at the ceiling of his bridge. His ship was broken. His crew was exhausted. His people needed help. "Set course," he said finally, "for Earth Dock 7. Earth Dock 7 was not what Vreth expected. He had imagined something small. Something basic. Humans were young. Humans were limited. He had expected a modest station, perhaps the size of a small asteroid, with simple tools and polite workers who would do their best but ultimately disappoint. What appeared on his view screen as they approached was something entirely different. Earth Dock 7 was enormous. It stretched across space like a small city floating between the stars. It had 27 separate docking bays, each one large enough to hold a ship 3 times the size of the Eternal Dominion. Giant mechanical arms extended from its sides like the legs of some massive creature, holding ships in place while workers swarmed over them. Lights blazed from every corner of the station. Ships of 40 different alien species were docked there. Vreth could see the angular shapes of Korean vessels, the smooth curves of Pelthian cruisers, the enormous dark hulks of Marg battleships. All of them were being repaired. All of them were being helped. And the humans were everywhere. They moved across the outside of the station in magnetic boots, carrying tools and equipment. They rode small repair pods between ships. They worked in groups of 3 and 4, cutting metal, sealing breaches, replacing engine parts. Some of them were singing. Vreth could see this on the external cameras, actual singing while they worked in the cold silence of space, their voices carried only inside their helmets, but their mouths clearly moving, their bodies swaying slightly as they worked. "They are singing," Peth said from the navigation console, sounding genuinely confused. "Yes," Soreth said. "They do that." A communication channel opened. A voice came through, human, female, warm and fast. The translator took half a second to catch up. "Earth Dock 7 control to incoming vessel. You look pretty rough, friend. Broadcasting your damage report to our assessment team now. Bay 19 is open and ready for you. We've already got a crew assigned. You'll have a dock manager meet you personally when you land. Welcome to Earth Dock 7, we're glad you made it." Vreth blinked. He had docked at 37 different repair stations across the galaxy in his career. Not one of them had ever said they were glad he made it. He leaned forward and pressed the response button. "This is Commander Vreth of the Galactic Sovereignty Fleet. We acknowledge your instructions. We are proceeding to Bay 19. Copy that, Commander Vreth. And hey, seriously, you made it in one piece. That's already a win. See you soon." The channel closed. Vreth sat quietly for a long moment. Then he looked at Soreth. What did she mean by a win? Soreth flickered his eyes slowly. "I believe, Commander, it is a human expression. It means a good thing. Something to be happy about." Vreth said nothing. But somewhere deep inside his chest, in the place where Vreth's species kept emotions they did not fully understand, something shifted very slightly. Her name was Maya Chin. She was waiting for them at the entrance to Bay 19 when Vreth and a small group of his officers disembarked from the Eternal Dominion. She was a human female, short by alien standards, with dark hair pulled back behind her head, brown eyes that moved quickly and noticed everything, and a gray jumpsuit with the Earth Dock 7 insignia on the chest. She had grease on her left hand and a data tablet in her right. She looked like she had been awake for a very long time. She also looked like she did not mind this at all. She stepped forward immediately when she saw Vreth, extended her hand in the human greeting gesture and said, "Commander Vreth. Maya Chen, Dock Manager. I've already reviewed your damage report. Can I be honest with you?" Vreth shook her hand carefully. Humans had such small, soft hands. "Yes. Your ship should not have made it here," Maya said completely directly. "Your port engine stabilizers were essentially held together by hope and pressure at that point. Your navigation team did something extraordinary to bring you in. Please tell them that." Vreth looked at her. No diplomatic softening. No polite evasion. Just honesty. "I will tell them," he said. "Good." Maya clicked something on her tablet and turned to walk alongside him. "Now here is what we are looking at. 17 hull breaches. 3 offline engine cores. Weapons array destroyed, but honestly weapons are not my priority. I want your crew breathing and your ship moving before we worry about weapons. I have 48 technicians assigned to your vessel starting in 3 hours. I want to do a full internal walkthrough with your chief engineer before we begin. Is Soreth available?" Vreth stopped walking. Maya noticed and turned to look at him. "How do you know my chief engineer's name?" Vreth asked. Maya smiled, a small, quick human expression. "I know all the names of your senior crew, Commander. I reviewed your personnel manifest the moment you entered our communication range. I find that it helps. Your people should be known by name, not just rank or species." Vreth stared at her for a long moment. In the Galactic Sovereignty Fleet, dock managers at repair stations were low-ranking workers. They took orders. They processed ships. They were not important. They were not the kind of people who memorized crew manifests and greeted commanders at the docking bay door. "Caro," Vreth said quietly. It was an old expression from his homeworld, used when something surprised you so completely that regular words felt too small. He had not said it out loud in years. Maya looked at him curiously. "What does that mean?" "It means," Vreth said slowly, "that I was not prepared for this." Maya laughed, a short, bright human sound. "Nobody ever is," she said. "Come on. Let me show you what we do here." In the 3 hours before the repair work officially began, Maya took Vreth on a full tour of Earth Dock 7. Vreth had toured many stations. Usually those tours were formal, a quiet walk through clean corridors with an official guide who pointed at things and recited statistics. Earth Dock 7 was nothing like that. The station was alive. In the main engineering floor, a space so large that Vreth could not see the far wall, hundreds of human workers moved with a kind of organized chaos that was deeply strange to watch. They worked in teams but not rigidly. They moved between tasks. They called to each other across the floor. They argued loudly about the best way to fix a Pelthian coolant system, then immediately solved the argument by trying both methods at once and seeing which worked faster. They ate food at their workstations. They laughed while cutting metal. One team was playing music from a speaker mounted on a repair cart while they rebuilt an engine housing. "Do they always work like this?" Vreth asked. "Like what?" Maya said. "Like it is, not work," Vreth said. Maya thought about this for a moment. "For a lot of them it is not," she said. "My lead engine tech, Danny, he has been fixing alien engines since he was 17 years old. Learned by taking apart his father's old truck engine in their backyard. He says engines talk to him. He hears them." She paused. "My hull team leader, Rosa, grew up in a coastal city that got hit by 3 hurricanes. She spent her teenage years helping rebuild houses. She says sealing a hull breach feels exactly like patching a roof after a storm. It just needs to be done, so you do it. They bring their lives to their work, Vreth said slowly. They bring everything, Maya said simply. Then she showed him the material storage bay, and Vreth stopped walking again. The storage bay held materials for 47 alien ship types. Every metal alloy known in the galaxy. Rare composite panels that only 3 factories in the galactic sovereignty could manufacture. Pelthian bioseal compounds that most stations had to order 3 months in advance. Human-engineered hybrid materials that Vreth had never seen anywhere else. Things his own engineers had never heard of. How do you have all of this? Vreth asked. We collect, Maya said simply. Every ship that comes through here we study. We take notes. We figure out what we need in case they come back. We contact manufacturers. We trade. We build our own versions when we cannot get the original. Some of our materials? We made them ourselves. Danny's team spent 8 months developing a substitute for sovereignty-grade hull steel that performs at 94% of the original strength. 94%, Vreth repeated. We are still working on getting it to 100, Maya said. And the way she said it, not as a failure, not as an apology, but as a simple statement of ongoing work, told Vreth more about humans than any diplomatic report ever had. Danny Reyes was 31 years old, built like someone who had spent his entire life lifting heavy things, with dark skin, kind eyes, and hands that were permanently stained with engine grease no matter how many times he washed them. He had been working at Earth Dock 7 since he was 22. He was the youngest lead engine tech the station had ever had. He was also, according to every alien engineer who had ever worked with him, some kind of miracle. Soreth met him in the engine bay of the Eternal Dominion and immediately did not know what to make of him. Danny walked through the damaged engine cores the same way a doctor might walk through a ward of sick patients. Slowly, carefully, touching things gently, listening. He carried no scanner. He used his hands. He crouched down beside the second engine core, pressed his ear against the housing, and stayed perfectly still for almost 30 seconds. What is he doing? Soreth asked quietly. One of Danny's human technicians, a young woman named Priya, smiled. Listening. For what? He says broken engines make a specific sound even when they are not running. Something in the metal structure. The way the damage changes the resonance. Priya shrugged. I have worked with him for 4 years. I cannot hear it. He can. Danny stood up and turned around. He pulled a small notebook from his pocket, actual paper which Soreth found strange, and started writing quickly. Then he looked at Soreth directly. Your second core is the priority, Danny said. The damage looks worse on your first core, but the second one is the one that's going to cause you problems. The internal alignment shaft has a microfracture. You can't see it on scans because it is in the metal we call a shadow zone. But if you try to restart the first core without fixing the second one first, the vibration will crack the second one completely and you will lose both. Soreth stared at him. How do you? I have seen it before, Danny said. Different ship, different species, Korean battle cruiser about 3 years ago. Same battle damage pattern. Same shadow zone fracture. He tapped his notebook. I keep notes. HFY, Soreth said softly, the old phrase his father used to say when something changed the way you saw the world. Danny looked at him. What does that mean? Soreth was quiet for a moment. It means, from now I understand differently. Danny nodded slowly like this made perfect sense to him. Yeah, he said. Engines will do that to you. He put his notebook away and looked at his team. All right, second core first. Let's get to work. On the third night of repairs, Vreth could not sleep. This was not unusual for him. Commanders rarely slept well away from their home stations. But tonight it was something specific that kept him awake. He put on his environmental suit and walked through the repair bays alone, needing to think. What he found surprised him. The night crew was working. Not a skeleton crew. Not a reduced team running minimal operations. A full, active, energetic night crew. Just as many workers as the day shift, moving with the same urgency, the same care, the same noise. Music was playing somewhere. Someone was laughing. The repair lights blazed as bright as ever. Maya was there too, sitting on a crate near Bay 12, drinking something hot from a container and reviewing documents on her tablet. She looked up when she saw Vreth approaching. Commander. Can't sleep? No, he said. He sat down on a crate across from her. Your people don't stop. Not when there's a ship in need, Maya said simply. We work rotations. 24-hour coverage. Why? Vreth asked. Most stations work daylight cycles. Efficiency models across the galaxy suggest that worker rest periods of... Commander, Maya said gently, interrupting him, somewhere in the galaxy one of those ships we repaired last month is flying home right now. Maybe they are carrying food to a planet that's running out. Maybe they are carrying medicine. Maybe they are carrying someone's family. Every extra hour we work is an hour we give back to someone. She looked at her tablet. I cannot sleep if I know a ship is waiting and my people are resting when they don't need to. Vreth looked at her carefully. And your workers agree with this philosophy? Maya smiled. I didn't build this philosophy, Commander. They did. When I first became dock manager, I tried to implement the standard rest rotation. My team came to me after 2 weeks and asked me to change it back to 24-hour coverage. They said they slept better knowing the work was getting done. Vreth was silent for a long time. In his experience, in 400 years of galactic sovereignty history, workers did the minimum required. They followed rules because there were consequences for not following them. Efficiency was managed from above, enforced through structure and punishment. The idea of workers voluntarily choosing to work harder than required, not for more money, not for rank, but simply because they believed the work mattered, was something he had never encountered. Maya, he said slowly, why do your people care so much? Maya was quiet for a moment. She looked out through the viewport at the Eternal Dominion, lit up by repair lights, surrounded by workers. Because we remember what it felt like, she said quietly. For most of human history, when something broke, a house, a boat, a community, we fixed it ourselves or we lost it. We learned very early that taking care of each other was survival. It is built into us, I think. Even out here in space, surrounded by species that have been flying between stars for thousands of years, we are still, at the core, the same people who helped our neighbor fix their roof after the storm. Vreth said nothing. He sat with her in silence for a while, watching his ship being healed. On the 5th day everything changed. A distress signal came in. A Marg cargo freighter, the Stone of Ages, had suffered a catastrophic engine failure 47 light minutes from the station. The ship was carrying emergency medical supplies to the Pelthian colony on Durith 4, where a respiratory plague had been spreading for 3 weeks. Without those supplies, medical estimates said 12,000 Pelthians would die within the next 30 days. The Stone of Ages could not move. Its main drive was completely gone. Earth Dock 7 was already running at full capacity. Every bay was occupied. Every technician was assigned. There was no room, no free team, no spare capacity in any standard operational model. Maya called an all-hands meeting in the central floor. Every worker on the station, day crew, night crew, everyone, gathered around her. She did not speak from a stage or use a formal communication system. She stood on a crate, the same kind she had been sitting on the night before, and spoke in her normal voice. A ship is stranded, she said. 12,000 people need what it's carrying. Here is what I know. I know we are full. I know you are all already working. I know I have no right to ask you for more than you are already giving. She paused. I am asking anyway. The room was silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then Danny Reyes put his hand up. I will take a repair pod out. I can do a field repair on the main drive. Keep it running long enough to get them here. The pod journey is 9 hours one way, Priya said beside him. That is 18 hours in a repair pod, Danny. I know, he said simply. Then 3 other hands went up. Then 5 more. Then the entire room was moving, people volunteering for pod crews, offering to double shift to cover the bays while others went out, pulling together lists of spare parts that could be loaded into pods. Vreth was standing at the back of the room. He had brought Sorith with him to observe the meeting. They stood together and watched in silence as 140 humans organized themselves, within 8 minutes, into a rescue operation. Caro, Sorith said very quietly. Vreth nodded slowly. Yes, he agreed. Danny Reyes and his team of 4 reached the Stone of Ages 9 hours and 14 minutes after leaving Earth Dock 7. The Marg freighter was enormous, 3 times the size of the Eternal Dominion, and it was drifting in complete silence. No lights except emergency red. No engine hum. Just a massive ship floating in the dark, helpless. The Marg crew watched through their viewports as the tiny human repair pods approached. The Marg were a large species, heavy, stone-skinned, slow-moving, and deeply proud. They did not ask for help easily. Their captain, a massive creature named Horg, contacted Danny's pod directly. Human repair team, Horg said. His translator voice was deep and flat. Our drive core is completely destroyed. Even our backup ignition systems are gone. Our engineering team says it cannot be repaired without full dry dock facilities. Your engineering team is probably right, Danny said. But I am not here to fully repair it. I am here to make it move long enough to get you to the dock. Give me access to your lower drive bay. There was a pause. You intend to improvise? I intend to fix your ship, Captain, Danny said. Another pause. Our drive core technology is Mark-specific. Humans do not. I have your drive core schematics, Danny said. I pulled them from the database on the way here. I also have a hybrid patch system that I designed last year for Korean drives, which uses similar energy transfer principles. I think I can adapt it. He paused. I am going to be honest with you, Captain Horg. I cannot promise this will work perfectly. I can promise that I will not stop trying until it does, or until there is genuinely nothing more I can do. Either way, I am not leaving your ship until we have given this everything we have. The silence that followed lasted 15 seconds. Then Horg said in a voice that sounded different, quieter, less like a captain and more like a person, access granted, human. Lower drive bay doors are opening. Danny and his team worked for 11 hours straight in the cold, dimly lit lower drive bay of the Stone of Ages. They ate energy bars without stopping. They did not sleep. They spoke to each other in the short, efficient language of people who know each other's rhythm completely. Hand me the 7. Try the secondary coupling first. No, the other side, brace it from the left. On the 9th hour, Danny lay flat on his back inside the drive core housing with both arms extended above his head into the mechanism, working entirely by touch because there was no room to turn his head and look. Priya held a light above the opening and talked him through what she could see from the outside. Okay, she said. The coupling is seated. Now rotate it clockwise, just slightly. I feel it, Danny said. I have it. He made a small, precise movement with his hands. The Stone of Ages hummed. Faintly at first, then stronger. Then the emergency red lights changed to standard white. Somewhere in the ship above them, they could hear the Marg crew making a sound. A deep, resonant vibration that Marg made instead of cheering. Danny slid out of the drive core housing. He was covered in grease and coolant fluid and something blue that he could not identify. He looked at Priya. HFY, Priya said softly, smiling at him. Danny laughed, exhausted, relieved, completely human. Yeah, he said. Let's go home. When Danny's team brought the Stone of Ages safely into Earth Dock 7, moving slowly on the improvised repair, but moving, Captain Horg disembarked personally to find Danny. This was unusual. Marg captains did not seek out workers. It was not the Marg way. Danny was sitting on the floor near his repair pod, too tired to stand, eating his first real meal in 20 hours. He looked up when a shadow fell over him and found himself looking at a creature that was roughly 3 times his size, with gray stone-textured skin and deep-set eyes that glowed faintly orange. You are the repair human, Horg said. Danny Reyes, Danny said and started to stand. Horg held up one enormous hand. Sit. You have earned the right to sit. He crouched down, a movement that seemed difficult for something his size, to be closer to Danny's level. I need to ask you something. Sure, Danny said. When you told me you were not leaving until you had given everything, did you mean it? Danny looked at him directly. Yes. Even if it had failed, Horg said. Even if there was nothing you could do. Especially then, Danny said simply. If it had failed, you deserved to know that every possible thing was tried. That your ship, and your cargo and those 12,000 people, mattered enough that we tried everything. He shrugged. That is just how we do things. Horg was still for a very long moment. His orange eyes were very steady. In Marg culture, Horg said slowly, there is an ancient concept. We call it Vorith. It means roughly the spirit of a thing. The character of a creature that shows itself when there is nothing forcing it to be good. When no rule requires it. When no punishment threatens it. He paused. We have a saying, the Vorith of a species is shown in its hardest moments. Another pause. I have met many species in my years of travel, human. I have never encountered a species whose Vorith was this strong. Danny did not quite know what to say. He was a mechanic from a small town in Texas. Nobody had ever described him using ancient alien philosophical concepts before. Thank you, he said finally. That means a lot. Horg stood slowly. Then, very deliberately, he placed one enormous stone hand gently on top of Danny's head, a Marg gesture that translated as something between a blessing and a declaration of deep respect. Your station will have Marg business for as long as I live, Horg said quietly. And I will tell every Marg captain I know. He walked away. Danny sat very still for a moment. Then he looked down at his half-eaten meal and said very quietly to nobody in particular, "I really love this job." The Eternal Dominion was ready. 11 days after arriving at Earth Dock 7, 2 days ahead of Maya's original estimate, Vretha's ship was fully repaired. All 17 hull breaches sealed. All 3 engine cores online and running at 102% efficiency, better than before the battle. The weapons array had been rebuilt. The oxygen recyclers were new. The water processors were upgraded. Danny's team had even repaired 3 things they found that Vreth had not known were damaged. On the morning of departure, Vreth requested a private meeting with Maya. They sat across from each other in her office, a small room that was cluttered with technical documents, coffee containers, a photograph of a human family on her desk, and on the wall a hand-drawn diagram that looked like a ship blueprint with notes written across it in multiple languages. "You were faster than I expected," Vreth said. "Your team was cooperative," Maya said. "It helps." Soreth worked alongside Danny's crew for 4 straight days. "He knows your engines better than almost anyone we have had through here. He told me," Vreth said. "He said it was the best technical education of his career." He paused. "Maya, I need to understand something. In 11 days here I have watched your people work. I have seen what you do and how you do it. I have spoken with your workers. I need to ask you directly, why do alien fleets come here? Not to the Sovereignty docks, not to the Pelthian stations, not to the Marg yards, here to Earth Dock 7. To humans. You are the youngest spacefaring species in the galaxy. You have been in space for barely 4 centuries. What is it that you have that the others do not?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. She looked out the small viewport in her office, at the stars and the docked ships and the workers moving between them. "I think," she said slowly, "it is because we have not forgotten that it matters." She turned back to him. "The older species, I say this with no disrespect, they have been doing this for thousands of years. They are very good at it. They are efficient. They have the best technology. But somewhere along the way for many of them, it became a transaction. A ship comes in. Parts are replaced. Ship leaves. That is all." She looked at her hands. "For us, it is never just a transaction. Every ship that comes through those bay doors is a community. It is 400 people who need to get home. It is cargo that somebody somewhere desperately needs. It is a story." She looked at him. "We cannot help treating it that way. We are simply built that way. Humans, we connect. We care. We cannot turn it off." Vreth was silent. "Your species," he said finally, "is considered young. Minor. Temporary by some estimates." "I know," Maya said without any bitterness. "I have written 12 diplomatic reports in my career," Vreth said slowly. "I have recommended alliances, trade agreements, and territorial decisions that affected billions of lives. In none of those reports did I ever write the word human as a significant factor." He paused. "I will be writing a new report when I return home. A very different kind of report." Maya looked at him quietly. "Caro," he said softly, "I was not prepared for any of this." The morning the Eternal Dominion was scheduled to depart, something happened that nobody expected. Soreth went to find Danny. He found him in the engine bay, where else, running final checks on the restored cores. Danny looked up when Soreth came in, and immediately read something in the 4-armed alien's expression that made him put down his tools. "What is it?" Danny asked. Soreth sat down on a workbench. For a moment he said nothing. Then slowly he said, "My youngest child, my daughter, she is 17 years old. On my homeworld." Pause. "I have not seen her in 3 years. This assignment, guarding the fleet route through Korean space, it was supposed to be 8 months. Then it extended. Then the battle." He stopped. "I did not know if I would survive the battle. I did not know, when we were drifting toward your station, if I would make it home." He looked at Danny steadily. "Your team repaired more than my ship, Danny Reyes. You repaired the possibility of going home." Danny was quiet for a moment. "What's her name?" he asked. Soreth blinked. "What?" "Your daughter. What's her name?" The alien was still for a long moment. "Sareth," he said softly. "Tell her," Danny said, "that a mechanic from Texas thinks her dad is the best engineer he's ever worked with. Because that is true." He picked up his tools. "And get home safe, Soreth." Soreth stood slowly. He looked at Danny, this small, grease-covered, impossibly warm human, for a long moment. "HFY," he said quietly. "I will never see my work the same way again. Or my life." He walked to the door. Then he stopped and looked back. "Danny," he said, Thank you. For the engines. But more, for this. Danny just nodded. That's the job, he said simply. And went back to work. When the Eternal Dominion finally moved out of Bay 19, every worker on Earth Dock 7 stopped what they were doing. This was not policy. There was no announcement. Nobody told them to stop. They just did. They stood at viewports, on external platforms in their magnetic boots, at the ends of walkways, and they watched the great ship move slowly out into space. Some of them waved, knowing the alien crew might not even understand the gesture. Some of them just stood quietly, hands in their pockets, watching. Vreth saw them from his bridge. He stood at his forward viewport and looked at these humans, hundreds of them, small and two-armed and fragile and temporary, standing there watching his ship go. He had no word in his language for what he felt. He pressed the open channel button. Earth Dock 7, he said. This is Commander Vreth. We are grateful. In a way I cannot fully express in any language I know. A moment of silence. Then Maya's voice, come back and see us, Commander. The kettle's always on. Vreth did not know what a kettle was. He found he did not need to.